Okay, hopefully a few people will start watching momentarily. I think I'll just get this up. So, greetings, all you proud sons of Constantinople. Thanks for tuning in. It will be my pleasure to continue to talk with you guys for a while and maybe just cover any topics of interest. If anyone wants to give any recommendations and ask for my input on certain issues, I will be happy to elaborate on those things unless I don't care or do not have enough knowledge on a certain topic. But yes, that's too not good enough. It doesn't. I thought that the stream was empty, but now I can see that it is indeed not, and that you guys are here. So, I don't know if any of you guys are into football or soccer, as the retards over in the States call it, but uh, Emiliano Sala has been recovered. His dead body has been recovered from the plane. Very sad news indeed. So all my thoughts and prayers go out to his family at this time, and his former football club could maybe hold off and demanding the fee for him. They're still demanding the front. Yeah, he's dead. Just his body's just been recovered. Oh well, I suppose that's the nature of business. So, um, if any of you guys in the chat want to provide with any sort of input, any shit posting, any topics, feel free to fire them at me. Gaming, politics, Star Wars, gardening. Because I'm thinking about putting an apple tree and a pear tree in my garden because I think it'd be a nice little touch. Grow my own fruit because I don't trust big business supermarkets. They're putting chemicals in it that are turning the freaking frogs trans. Should have kept the receipt. I know, pretty dark times, but yeah. Nantes FC, yeah, that's their actual name. It spells in English Nantes, but it's pronounced Nantes. They're demanding the first slice of their payment instead of grieving for their former player who's just passed away thanks to this car crash. I mean, plane crash, sorry. Car crash, that's just rolling off the tongue, muscle memory. But I don't think anyone was expecting any good news from that outcome. Anyway, so I am just going to have a look on the Twitter, see what people are saying. I call this "With News You Lose" because I think this is a good sounding name because because it sort of steals like the alt rights with with them that they put echoes round you lose, which I don't fully agree with. I think that's just I think there's some Jewish people that aren't nice, but there's like that in every single every single thing. But yeah, with news you lose because the news is depressing and it's pretty apt. Do footballers come with an invoice? Well, football's just money driven, so I don't think they do. I mean, they've paid, they've signed the contract. It's all been sorted. Technically, nonce are entitled to the money, but you'd think they'd maybe just hold off it for a little while due to the circumstances. Rockin' Mystery is literally the YouTube channel I hate more than any other currently. Interesting. I can't say I've seen any of your comments in his videos, but to be fair, I've not been watching him too much over the last few months. I think I narrowed down what YouTubers I was watching. It was mostly V, Sargon, Geeks and Gamers. This is going away from, well, I'm trying to go away from politics, unfortunately. It all comes in. Comic Artist Pro Secrets, The Quartering, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer. But I'm trying to, catch up with other people as well. Break even. Yeah. I mean, it is a shame, but unfortunately, that's just what happens when you fly at this time of year. It's just, well, any time of year, really. But for some reason, I don't know why, but I've always felt more iffy about flying in winter than I do in the summer, even though I suppose it's not that much of a big deal. Yeah, it was quite interesting. Rockin' Mystery's return to Christianity. He was raised as an Orthodox, and I did give him a super chat in his live stream earlier. You'll find it. I don't mind giving like super chats from time to time. I mean, I'd like to be able to, fund other people through like more regularly, like subscribe stars. I'm interested in. Like, I'm a bit torn because I want to like become a patron of Sargon on a Subscribestar, because he's now doing a good initiative where he's getting 3 people who he wants to employ to help him with his work, like a cameraman, an editor, and don't know what the other one was. But I think it's really good that that would be something to sponsor. But I think $5 is not really enough. I'd maybe give 20, but there's so many others. I want to give. I'm considering V because I really like his work. Tail's another shout. I'm open to maybe. I would probably use Subscribestar rather than Patreon, to be honest. I don't really want to use Patreon anymore. Sargon Quarter and Tim Castile feature Daddy Dank. Yeah, Dankula as well. He's Jordan Peterson. To be honest, I love Jordan Peterson, but I very rarely watch his channel. I've got his book, and I often watch. I always watch when he's on Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin, whenever he goes on to the Channel 4s and the GQs and dismantles them. But maybe I should watch more of his actual lectures. I see the odd live chat thing that he does where people ask him questions. Rockin' Mystery is very fiercely conservative. He's of Greek Cypriot descent, so he grew up as a Greek Orthodox Christian. His parents moved to Wales, and he grew up in Wales. He's probably more conservative than most people in this sphere. He was very critical of the skeptic community, but he's also willing to speak to anyone, and he's overall very friendly. But he does tackle subjects that not many other people would. Port doesn't like him. I'd like to know what sort of things you say to him. If you give me an example of what would be a good one. Maybe the one about the evolution video with Richie disputes, because that sounded like one that you were pretty irked about. Disagree with you a lot, but I feel like I'd have a pipe with him at least. That's fair enough. Now, V's a good guy. I mean, this is quite interesting. Have I heard of Jordan B. Peterson Wave? I have not. No, I'll have a look into that. But one of the hot topics right now is... Sorry, I'm a bit thirsty. Is abortion, and what's going on in the States. This is one of these topics that both sides are very primal about how they manifest their opinions in this. Now, I'm genuinely not leaning fully towards one side. Now, that might sound like it's because I'm trying to sit in the fence, but that's not true. I am actually more conflicted on this issue. I think this is definitely not black and white. I will just copy and paste my interaction to show how much of a pussy he is. That actually was held for review, so I apologise. Show I will have to manually go through something. But anyway, it's not much swap with V, but V did sort of persuade me with one of his arguments about abortion, because, as I said, I'm conflicted in this issue because I don't like the people that are going, yeah, let's just have an abortion for the hell of it, because fuck the patriarchy and all that. But there are scenarios in which it's not just understandable, but even I would encourage it, like in the case of being raped. The woman's health's in danger if the baby's going to be deformed and, have a really bad life. The parents might make a choice there. There genuinely is arguments for both sides, but this is not me sitting the fence. There is genuinely conflict with this first trimester only. That's, I'm more or less on board with that. I don't like it when people have an abortion just because they're irresponsible. If they fail to use contraception and then a man and a woman make a baby and then they want to abort it just because they're not up to it, I don't like it. But I will tolerate it because of what V brought up about abortion, and that was that when Romania was under communism, it was outlawed. It was illegal to do so. And then a black market would be formed in which, cowboy doctors essentially would attempt to perform abortions, and it would just fuck up. The women would get infected, babies, it would fail, babies could be born, mentally retarded, and it just causes so many problems. I'm thinking, well, it's no matter what position you take, you're going to have to go with the lesser of two evils. I think that's exactly what V used. So that's kind of why I think ultimately I would have it legal. But I do so out of necessity and not necessarily out of liking it. But in the other scenarios that I put down earlier, hello Punkster, there are some scenarios where it would be fine and even encouraged. I mean, if a woman gets raped and falls pregnant, you would not want her to bear the offspring of that of her rapist. If that's not what she could bear doing, then fair enough. But I definitely do not like this near term abortions that's been talked about in New York State. And I mean, it's harder to tell nowadays, thanks, Poe's law becoming reality, but there's even talk of what after birth abortions. If anyone has any information on that, please let me know. I'll probably have a search later. I mean, I can't prove this, but there is word going round. It could just be a load of bollocks. I do hope it is. I genuinely hope there is no one out there who's advocating for killing babies after they're born, almost like a post-birth abortion. That's just flat out murder. No one's going to be able to change my mind. I'd say that's murder. Change my mind. No, don't even try to change my mind because you cannot. Via Scotty. I might have a. Oh, all right then. I'll have a look at that GP Jordan Peterson wave earlier. I think abortion should be available at Tesco. Also, another thing, the reason why I wouldn't outlaw abortions is because my ideal scenario, what I would be my utopian scenario, would be impossible to achieve because I would only be able to give it out if there was provable circumstances like rape, potential health issues that would come out of this, and maybe if the parents were going to have a really malformed child who they couldn't cope with, that would be fair enough. But the amount of people who would lie about that would just be off the scale. If you were to make it illegal to just have abortions for the sake of having abortions, then those people would lie, and then that would be like, shit, so what do you do there? My ideal scenario would be that if people wanted an abortion just for the hell of it, they can go private for that and just do their own thing. You'll spend your own money for your own consequences, but it's very difficult. I mean, I'm not trying to not spark the ire of either side, because you're going to do that anyway. Even more so if you try to sit the fence. That's why the only time I would sit on the fence on an issue is if I either don't give a shit about an issue or if I have no knowledge of it, but in which case, whether I'd want to go and find the knowledge to make a choice on that particular issue would be the case. But that's the only time I would sit on the fence. If it's like, nah, don't care. Like if Nazis and communists were going to have a fight, who do I want to win? Don't care. Send them into that little one of those isles in the Hebrides that have no human population. Just let them feed off each other for all I care. Jordan Peterson changed my life. He's done that with a lot of people. His work has helped quite a lot from what I've heard, but also not so much family tragedy. I mean, it was very tragic what happened, but my young nephew did go through a battle with cancer, and that sort of built my character. I mean, it's hard to say anything good would come out of that, but I used to not put words into practice. Now I'm just sort of like pushing onward and just accepting everything bad that happens, and you just have to push on. That's the only way. Watch the Amazing Atheist view on abortions. I pretty much remember them. I haven't seen him for quite a while, but I'll keep a lookout at some point. So yeah, what do you guys think of the title "With News You Lose"? Should I make this a recurring thing? It's quite ironic because I tried to be anti-nihilistic, but it sounds quite nihilist because there's no such thing as good news. I think that's pretty Aldi portion. It's good. You like the thing. Yeah, I think I might make this a reoccurring thing for live streams. I may or may not bring people on in the future. Put my info for you now. Go and follow while you still can, because it may get taken down for no reason. My second Twitter account was taken down because it was associated with the same phone number, but that happened randomly, like months later. So I had like hundreds of followers, but I've only got like 20 now, such as the consequences of getting booted off. If it sounds like I'm sniffing really hard, I mean, I do hear that when I listen back. It's the microphone I've got, so yeah. I do apologise. Anyway, so I think the best place to like look at news would be the Twitter. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to maybe share screen for a while, and we can just talk through a few certain bits. Let me get pop out chat first and foremost. Twitter is shite. You keep getting suspended. You need to be Actually, no, I was about to say you need to be an NPC, but I actually called myself NPC generic 6-figure number, and I got banned as well. So yeah, just for jumping on a bandwagon. Turns out I was the wrong kind of NPC. Anyway, I'll get Twitter up. I'm just going to change my trending location because I don't want to 2% dox myself. I'll just go to the UK trends. Excellent. Right, now to share screen with you faggots. Whoops, oh shit, I just said the F word. I might have to delete the stream after, who knows. How do I do this? It's been ages. I'm noob again. Here, here we go. Right, so let's just see if we can see any news, because this is the fastest way to get news. It's like the McDonald's of picking up your news, going on Twitter. Broke socialism caused the Venezuelan catastrophe. Woke America caused the Venezuelan catastrophe. Bespoke Blairites caused it. Absolutely. Like, of all the politicians, I think I would become a devout follower of Jeremy Corbyn before I would even have any sort of peace with Tony Blair. I despise Tony Blair with a passion for all that he's done, and he's still trying to stop Brexit. He is not a good man. I'm pleased to announce my candidacy for Prime Minister of the USA. That's what's I keep forgetting the first part of her name. I just know her as Cortez. I should know it because I've like had live streams on like certain videos on in the background, but I'm like playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then I've got like the Thinkeries channel and Sargon's second channel on in the background, and not fully paying attention. Look at this. Look at the state of this. I have to approve certain comments. Sent you a screenshot of your exchange with Mr. E. See, you can't even call Tony Blair a prick without it getting demonetized. Oh, you're still on. I'm following you until you decide to purge this. Pork. Right. So before we get on with the news, let's go through this. Right. The first half of this video was an argument for God's existence. It's an argument for Christian moral supremacy that says nothing about the existence of God. Second half are arguments that have been debunked to death. The so-called infinity paradox just as easily could be applied to God. Who created God? Who created that creator? And so on. You don't explain why things can't go into infinity. You don't explain why someone could not come from nothingness. You just sort of said, because I said so. So, since those arguments are not proven to be wrong, that means the universe could exist without a creator, which means existence could go on an infinite cycle of existence and destruction, which means infinite versions of existence have already manifested. Therefore, it would be almost certain, an almost certainty, that a more structured universe would manifest. I wouldn't say I would agree fully with it. I think you make some good points, and I think you present it in a good way. I think there's nothing wrong with the tone which you've approached it. So Rock and Mystery replies with, dismissive comments like this are going to start being deleted because I'm not repeating myself constantly in comments. But that I don't like. Now, I can understand your frustration. he doesn't need to repeat himself in the comments. He can put his point in the video, and everyone else can just, hash it out. He doesn't need to to delete comments. I'm not really fond of that. The only comments I would delete would be spam or any attempts to dox an individual. I would purge that information if I've thought that myself or anyone else was being shared. The prosperity of Christianity proves that this is the most logical explanation for religion. The infinity paradox of existence in the second half of this video explain why God must exist. Please listen. Now, he's not persuaded me that God is real, but I have become more agnostic as opposed to atheist in recent times. I do think there has been a moral vacuum to an extent, not fully, because some Christians are immoral. That goes without saying. But I do think that the nihilism that has come, over the last 50 years since the sexual revolution, I think it's led to a lot of people being unhappy, and I include myself in this. And I look around society, and one of the things I do is I can overanalyze, things with other people, why people are the way they are. So I think I think if people are religious and they keep it personal and don't make it political, they generally are happier. I like Jordan Peterson's type of Christianity. He says that he just acts if God exists, which means that he's not going to force it on anyone. And one thing that he comes forward with is that Jesus picked up his cross and went up and just carried it up to his crucifixion spot willingly, which, whether that happened or not, you can believe that. I think Jesus was real. I don't believe that he was born to a virgin. Even if I was to become a Christian, there's just things like that which I'm just like, it's a bit, far out there. But I do think that Jesus of Nazareth was real, and he perhaps was crucified, and perhaps he did have, a flock of people who loved what he had to say. It could well have been to an extent. I don't know about. I haven't read much of the Bible, to be fair. I look more at the cultural side rather than the spiritual side. But I'm not going to compare him to Socrates, but there's a sort of similarity in that they both maybe, Socrates definitely was ostracized for, speaking out against, just what the orthodoxy in ancient Athens was, and he refused to leave Athens. That was his way of not getting punished. And Jesus was, crucified. But but what Jordan Peterson says about, just if you've got something hard, you just need to willingly roll up your sleeves and get on with it. And that's sort of resonates, that plus what my nephew went through over a year ago. Between those two things, I think that's true. You've just got to pick up and just keep on going on and not letting yourself get dragged down, because I used to allow myself to get that done all the time. To even read my comment, you pig-headed creation. I listened to every word of your moronic video. You are getting a bit too shouty or too insulty here, but fair enough. His response wasn't good, so I can maybe understand. It's clear you're not using your deleting his comments because you don't like people breaking down your flimsy arguments. You have to censor them to control your narrative and agenda. Perhaps that's true, but I don't think he needs to be explaining himself. If 10 people were to, if you guys were all to come up with me and debunk anything I literally said over the last 2 minutes, then it would be, I wouldn't go through one-on-one. I would maybe either just put out maybe a pinned comment to just elaborate on something and then say it. I won't say anything else. Say what you want to say, but I certainly wouldn't ban anyone. Let's see what you guys are saying. You get shadow banned in live chat too. You do indeed, Punkster. It's if you say bad words, even prick, or even if you were to say, I don't know, does someone want to say I don't know, Tony Blair's a poo-poo head or something? This is just an experiment, but I'm not going to put it in myself. I don't care if people are happy or not. It doesn't change the nature of reality. Not liking nihilism doesn't make it any less true. It can be quite hard to get out of nihilism. I was a nihilist. I know exactly what it is. The reason I speak out against it is because I want to try and get as many people to not get put into that vacuum as much as possible. But yeah, and I'll even confess here, there was a time when I was a MGTOW as well, and that was also at the height of my nihilism. And when you're when you're feeling like shit, it's easier to get drawn into that sort of thing, it doesn't matter. Like every ideology, left, right, libertarian, authoritarian, religious, non-religious, has a scapegoat. Even those that don't like scapegoating, have their scapegoats. They're called straight white men. I'm a nihilist and consider myself happy. That's fair enough. Maybe you have a different interpretation of what nihilism is. But yeah, I thought I would just go through this. But let's get back to the news on the Twitter to find out if anything's going on here. Ben Shapiro. Jack. And he. Oh God, I think he's casting his rod out. Ben Shapiro says 2019 is like 2018, but hilarious. Well, it's been a shitstorm. I mean, it's probably a good thing that Sargon doesn't do it this year and stupid at the end of the year, because he'd need to do one for every bloody month now. 2019 is like 2015, 16, 17, and 18 all crammed into one, with some added DLC in for good measure. Bezos exposes Pecker. Huffington Post. They're an absolute joke of a rag, as our BuzzFeed, which I'm pretty glad that they've laid off some people. Not because I want people out of job, but I just think it's funny that when it happens for that sort of reason, like I don't like people getting put out of jobs. Like if BuzzFeed were to sack their gender studies journalists because of a campaign to get them fired by let's just say, for argument's sake, an alt-right hate mob, then I'd be against that. I don't like this whole idea of mob justice. But the fact that their content is just so shit that they end up, having to be made redundant because like they just do not generate an income. That's what makes it funny. And then they learn to code. Mwah. People getting banned for that. I really want to say learn to code, even like not to anyone, but I think there might be. I just got this feeling there's an algorithm in place at Twitter that will just purge anyone that says it. So I might need to say it in leaked. So God, yeah, it will look like I follow a lot of like conservative-minded folk. Kate Hoya, I'm not following her. Like she's someone that I followed before, but yeah, that was when my last account was up. So I'll have I'll look at comments from time to time to see what you guys are saying. Oh, yeah. So even if you censor yourself, you're still censored. You only talk like shit, so it's the only way he responds to me. If he wasn't a snake in the grass with selective hearing. Snake in the glass. Have you been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey? Beware of the snakes in the grass, Alexios. Say goodbye to your channel, Punkster. Learn to code. I'm just going to refill my water because I'm very, very parched right now. So you guys just stay there for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to take off screen share. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. This will literally be no more than 60 seconds. See, under 60 seconds as promised. A word once given, I never break. So, let's see, do we still have people here? We do, that's good. So let's get back on to the Twitter to find out if there's anything newsworthy. Kate Hoy did go to, well, I doubt Lucifer would welcome them. As after what they did to Britain, they would even manage to divide hell. Guy Verhofstadt. I did a video recently about the EU's army impending, which has a couple of dislikes. I bet Telegon was one of them, which is fair enough. I don't mind that. you guys are the devil, the European Union. This is all like all this shit. Like, just have no deal. It's going to be hard in the interim. I can accept that. Like, I've been unemployed before. I've lived in homeless accommodation as a child twice. I've also experienced the middle class lifestyle as a child. I've had a roller coaster of a childhood, but I can say confidently, yeah, any threats of like unemployment or economic hardships don't scare me because economically we're fucked regardless whether we stay in or not. There's problems. I just do not want to be part of your Luciferian project. I've been wondering what a special place in hell looks like for those who promoted Brexit. Ah, right. So Donald Tusk says that, and then Guy, I do not know how to have an adequate haircut. Verhofstadt decides to chime in. I want to know how many people in the chat are gamers. Sorry, man, I need to go. I do want to watch when you go to bed. No, that's fair enough. Early rise. It's absolutely fine. Thanks for tuning in, Punkster. And I'll definitely do this more often. But yeah, I'll just keep going as long as there's people watching the stream. So yeah, record low minority unemployment, cheering for ourselves. Have you ever noticed this is the first time since the early days of the Ku Klux Klan that you've seen Democrats in white uniforms? I think I'd be better going to the trending section to have any look at the news. I missed BBC Question Time, but the SNP have been on it. I think you said something along the lines of pork and Chief Moody stream. I failed to read it out, but I did see it that you campaigned for yes with the SNP, but you felt uncomfortable doing so, which is understandable. But to be fair, on both the No campaign and the Leave campaign, subsequently, I had George Galloway on my side, so you just have to deal with it. So I'm just going to test something. Can you guys in the chat let me know if you can hear this, the video? So just going to check the comments to see if you can clarify that. No, you can't hear that. That's because I'm using YouTube's native live streaming thing. It doesn't have the service. That's fine. I've got OBS and I know how to set up an OBS stream, so I'll do that the next time. But I'm not going to bother now because I probably won't be any more. Chief Moody again thanking me. That's good. Hopefully, I can get on a few other streams. I've actually spoken to Count Dankula before and Goodfella, another Scottish YouTuber, thanks to Tailed Feature. I doubt he'll be listening at this present moment, otherwise he would have shitposted by now. So I think Galloway's a bit of a cunt. There you go. No, but thanks for clarifying that. At least I know now that I'll need to use OBS for streaming from now on, because I do have that set up to play sounds. As a couple of you guys will have remembered, my Crash Bandicoot live stream that worked eventually. So I was going to go over the question time, but I don't think I will now. Let's I don't know. Is there anything you guys would like me to discuss? Because I'm all for it. I keep saying this, but give me your ideas. I want to see what you've got to talk about. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Salah update. Such sad news. And that's him as a nonce player. Very tragic indeed. Thank you, on my final stream for terminated your channel. How why did you terminate your channel? Are you reforming? Are you going to come back as a? Are you going to be like Candace Owens? You're going to leave your old self behind and become red pilled under a different pseudonym? Oh, I've not screen shared. That's good. I thought I was screen sharing, but it doesn't matter. The sound wasn't there, but I was actually playing a Twitter video with someone taking the SNP task on question time. So that's absolutely fine. Depends on how long you have on your channel for. For my channel, I don't know. I'll just have it until the end of time, essentially. I may well end up. Oh my god! Let me just. I'll show you in a second, Polygon. But if I do end up taking videos down, it will be because of my IRL situation. I may have to do that tactically. I won't do that with live streams, but like full on like political content, I may need to watch out. But let me just screen share again because Polygon, you have been shadow banned yet again. I have 3 videos on my channel and 3 subscribers. Yes, that was held for review. I had to give my consent to that comment. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's get back to the McDonald's of news. The Twitter. Right, here we go. We've got some cultural appropriation. As someone who grew up in a country that celebrates Lunar New Year, and I still celebrate it, this is ridiculous. So, what we have here, let me guess, I bet this is someone who is based, well, not in the United States, in London, but is going to preach about celebrating the Lunar New Year. It's absolutely stupid. I mean, I thought the whole idea of multiculturalism was to promote other cultures and partake in them. No? Oh well. Stop banning my mutuals if I get the Eternal Scott. I think let's try to see if you'll get banned. So nice how well my State of the Union speech was received. Thank you to all. Yeah, if anyone was paying attention, there he actually had a lot of Democrats up in their feet. He was like sort of stroking, like he was saying something. He was saying things that even they couldn't like sit down and ignore. You know, the celebrating the suffragettes and the struggles that they had in securing the women's vote. Very, very noble. I mean, I might banter about, take the right to vote away, but it's all in jest. But it doesn't matter. Context doesn't matter. You say something, even if you don't say something, you believe it. So, yep. So Trump, it went very well. He got a 76 approval rating for that State of the Union. That's good going for someone that's the Emmanuel Goldstein of America. Just found out what shadow ban is. I ain't red pilled. I'm pink pilled, kinda. That's interesting. There seems to be more sort of pills coming. I've never heard of pink pilled. I've only just lately been introduced to the black pill, which is just pure giving up and it's just probably radical nihilism to an extent. Not the nihilism that you can be happy, but it's just like there's no hope. Whereas red pilled, like how would I describe it? I mean, I can't speak for everyone that calls themselves red pilled because everyone's different. Even congrats to Chief Moody on his 300 subscribers. But I would describe the process as finally understanding and accepting harsh truths, but also having the determination to try and push back against that, and just having the will to live on. Whereas being black pilled, like you understand the harsh truths, but you give up and you lose all hope. I think pink pilled. There is a term called purple pilled because the first people to use red pilled like frequently was the MGTOWs when I was in my MGTOW phase. The red pill, blue pill theory is kind of what the red pill theory that we are discussing right now is. It sort of stems from that. But yeah, they would describe like a red pill would be a MGTOW that wants nothing to do with women, and blue pill would be someone that would fall in love, and then purple pill would be some guy who's aware of the risks but still does it to an extent, which is probably, if I was to measure up in the way that the MGTOWs see the world, I probably would be purple pill, and I don't think I would ever deviate from that. As far as politics go, I'm very red pilled. But yeah, pink pilled is kind of the same thinking as Contra Points and Sean and Jen. Ah, yes, I've heard of them. I've not watched a lot of their stuff. So is this a thing then, Pork? Contraport says, Contraport's transgender. I think it might have been someone that even they... I really don't know what to call. I'll just call it the intellectual dark web. That's probably a better term for what people used to colloquially call the skeptic community. Skeptic community was a shit name, but the intellectual dark web is better because it doesn't really adhere to one single ideology, which is even better. It's just where non-mainstream ideas can go. I think so. I think I've heard people like praising ContraPoints as being very rational. I will have a look. And just to elaborate on something that we have quarreled with on Twitter previously about the transgender issue. I don't have any problem with those who want to just live their own life like that. I totally get it. That's fine. I even admire Blair White. And there was another one as well. I can't remember what her name was. But what I don't like, and this is probably not so much the fault of trans people themselves, but rather the fault of the state, is weaponizing their situation and their movement in order to justify policing people's language more. Just looking at Scotland and looking at what that guy on Twitter who liked something and a police officer called him to say he'd done nothing wrong, but was giving him a sort of like warning. It was a warning without it being a warning, essentially. So hopefully that clears that up. Did we? I think maybe we had like one or two like issues, because I do think to an extent it's not so much the people, but I think rather the movement has gone too far, and I think there's too many that are just jumping on the bandwagon because it's fashionable to essentially just be as out there and as non-normal of that. Lots of people have done that throughout history. No, I don't dispute that. I mean, I know that I've been told that I don't know if it's true today, but a good friend of mine once told me that in Iran, because I was telling about how homosexuality is forbidden under Islam, but it's actually okay for a man to marry a eunuch in Iran. I don't know if that's a Persian thing or a classical Iranian thing, or whether it still goes today, but yeah, that might well be true. So if you're into eunuchs, you might want to go to Iran. And I think I heard something about it. It was on another live stream I did with a friend, actually, about it sounded like Iran's intersectional heaven. It's in Islam's a majority religion, and apparently they won't do forced gender reassignment if there's any issues. I don't know. It's been a long time. I'll try and look that up at some point, and we can go into it further. I might do a sort of Mad Lad style video where I'll look into that. What I can attest to is that there's certainly been people who have pretended to be other genders. Mary Read, a pirate, was, if you played Assassin's Creed 4, you'll see it. That Mary Read was known as Jim and passed for a sort of young man, almost. Yeah, but how does someone identify as say non-binary affect my life? Personally, it doesn't do anything to my life. And as long as they just keep to themselves, I do think a lot of cases it'll be a passing phase. Like the Dices Scum girl has become just cis again, I guess. But it's when they start, pushing this to children is where I take issue. Children should be, I honestly believe that childhood innocence should be preserved as long as possible, and that anything to do with these complex issues should be kept from them, especially at primary school. I'm not against sex education, but I don't think I do think the openness has gone a bit too far. I will elaborate on that actually when I do the political compass. I'm not sure whether I'll do it on Chief Moody's stream. I might like join his stream while he does it, and then maybe do one for myself for my channel to see if I've changed even a slight bit. If someone wants to be non-binary, as long as they're not, trying to promote the idea, then it's fine. But if they're doing this at school, as they have done in Brighton, and then they're trying to encourage children to choose their own gender, then I do have issue with that. I do believe that's going to cause a lot of upset for them in the long run, and it's only going to cause unnecessary confusion. But it's kind of the state's way. The whole trans movement has been weaponized by big government to, it's easier for them to control the narrative if people who feel that they depend on the government can sort of come in and do something about the haters. And yeah, and the government, it's great for them. That's why I don't like the SNP, and I don't necessarily like the Tories either, or Labour. It's a bit of a conundrum in Britain right now. I think that culture and ideology has gotten out of control. Do them separate and then analyse the questions. Like gender dysphoria is real, and I think a lot of arguments you get from leftists is that trans people are being told they don't exist. That's not true. They're obviously they're omnipresent. They're well, not omnipresent, but they are present in there. You can see them. It's being told. That's like saying that I don't exist because I identify as a dog, and someone says you're not a dog, so therefore you don't exist. No, it's not like that. So yeah, so that no, it was. I hope that answered some of your questions. Pork, if you have any further questions, feel free to ask away. I'm happy to answer anything to the best of my knowledge. If I have no knowledge, then I may, or no interest, then I may not answer. There are calls for, here's a good subject, 100 Days to Eurovision, because it's in Israel, which is not in Europe. It's in Asia, but we know that Israel, excuse me, they'll spilt my water on me, culturally is closer to Europe than its immediate neighbours. And before I go on, just to answer, I think children should be taught that they are a thing, and adults who identify should be respected, and I don't think they necessarily need to learn anything beyond that. In principle, I can see where you're coming from, but I would maybe wait till second or even third year at high school before bringing in such a complex issue. I'd keep primary children out of it. Like I said, I think children will do better if they can at least hold on to their innocence until they are a teenager, instead of trying to turn them into, preteens. But anyway, back to the topic. So, who in the chat is going to be watching Eurovision, or who gives a shit about Eurovision? There's calls for Britain to boycott this year's event in Tel Aviv over Israel's human rights record. Do you agree? I'm not going to go into too much about Israel's human rights record on this video. I'll happily do that in another time. You need to sort of be in the mood for that, because it is not only is it touchy, but it's something that you need to have a lot of information at hand before tackling. But there seems to be hypocrisy here. The Russian World Cup, we didn't boycott that. The Qatar World Cup, we're not boycotting that. The Beijing Olympics. The thing is, if it's wrong for Israel to do it, then it's going to be wrong for anything that these countries do. Like, okay, Russia, I mean, I love Eurovision. Ironically, if you like Eurovision, fair enough. The Russian World Cup, I mean, I do think a lot of things about Russia get blown out of proportion. That's not to say I believe that Putin should be trusted necessarily, but I do think that Russia is a scapegoat for the globalist elite. Qatar, they confiscated passports from workers that come from the likes of Sri Lanka and Nepal, Indonesia. Countries that people don't give a shit about because they're like, well, Nepal's not got a high population, but they're not like on our doorstep. People, starving, dying, building these stadiums. The Beijing Olympics, that's true. There's awful pollution there to the point that you can't see the sun in certain cities. So I do think that although there is very legitimate reasons to criticize Israel on a number of issues. There are people that are very partisan and only criticise Israel. For example, and being a Celtic supporter, a lot of people do. A lot of Celtic fans fly Palestinian flags, but they don't fly Yemen flags. And I'm very dissatisfied with the way that people respond to Yemen, even the anti BDS or the BDS movement, the anti-Israel movement, and the pro-Palestinian movement don't seem to come to the aid of, or to they don't, well, not the aid necessarily, but they don't raise enough awareness. Some will, to their credit, but I've got a theory. I will elaborate on this in the future, hopefully with more people listening, because it is quite a serious thing. But I'll give you a sort of rundown that if Israel was just another Islamic majority country, or even if it was like a Shia country fighting against the Sunni Palestinians, I don't think anti-Israel people would be as anti-Israel as they are right now. I do think because they are seen as America's puppet, and because they're Jewish. That's not to say that criticizing Israel makes you an anti-Semite. That is not true at all. Far from it. If that was the case, then I'd be calling myself one. But no. But I do think that anti-Semitism does contribute to Israel being singled out more than other human rights abusers around the world. For example, the one that I focus most on is Saudi Arabia, because I think Saudi Arabia has ruined Islam, quite frankly. I mean, Islam was getting better, in the 17th and 18th century. The Ottoman Empire had become more relaxed, and I think as Napoleon conquered North Africa, and Egypt became very liberal, and I think Muhammad Ali, not the boxer, he was one of the Egyptian kings, held the Christian populace of Egypt in high esteem and had them as full equals. And it was only once Saudi Arabia, in Arabia, the Salafists started, but they were sort of confined to Arabia until oil was discovered, and with their finances, they've been able to sponsor terrorism, division, and planting madrasas around the globe. But that isn't about sexuality. All I want is children to learn as same-sex couples. That's fair enough. Non-binary folks. Well, non-binary. Well, I'm not asking people to look down upon them, but I do think it causes issues for young people, and the way that they are trying to weaponize, that some of them are trying to weaponize this identity to accuse people of criticizing it for hate speech. By all means, if you're non-binary, then fair enough. You call yourself that. It's fine. I'm happy to listen to your reasons for it, but don't accuse me of hate speech for taking any issue with anything you might have to say in the discussion. I will not accuse you of hate speech if you disagree with me. What's the cut of Palestine and Israel? I thought Israel was a home of the Jews. Well, it was, like, going back like centuries. It was a Roman province, and then the Ottomans ruled it. Funnily enough, what Israel and Palestine were technically part of Ottoman Syria when the Ottoman Empire ruled there. This was before the British partition, the British mandate, should I say, sorry, for Palestine. Palestine was a region and not a state. It comes from Philistine. I think the Romans may have named it as such, long time ago. I could be wrong, but essentially, yes, Palestine, when the Brits had the mandate for Palestine, it wasn't just Israel, it was Jordan as well. And the first idea, I think, both before the UN partition plan, was Israel-Palestine was all Israel for the Jews, and Jewish Palestine would be what would become Jordan. Was Islam involved? You don't hear about it much, but Islam is what drives Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And a lot of the terrorism that comes here is Islamism, but also Zionism is, the ultra-Orthodox, hardcore Zionist Jews who believe that they are fulfilling a prophecy by returning to their home, meaning that it is religious conflict, although Israel is a lot more secular, and it's not an apartheid state. There's many things about it that I don't like, but apartheid is not one of them, because Arab citizens in Israel are equal under the law, although they do face discrimination, in the same way that every country has, discriminates against any minorities. India discriminates. You know, they're pretty low down for like, you know, whether they'd want someone of a different race living next to them. And I think the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy across Western Europe is rather high on that one, funnily enough. But yes, it's religion is driving the force. I just believe that if Israel was an Islamic majority country and it would be Sunnis against Shias, there'd be not so much caring from the left, and it would be more whether you're a Sunni or a Shia, or whether you just wanted peace. I don't know whether, but I don't think. I think that's the one thing that unites the Sunnis and the Shias, and they generally do not like each other. But Israel is something that unites them temporarily. I mean, I am gay, so I think I might have a bias. I didn't know that, but you know, that's fair enough. I think it's important to normalise LGBTQ in the sense of being accepted and treated as normal part of culture and society. That's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, there's generally like I don't see a lot of homophobia from people as much nowadays. I work with a lot of gay people in my job, and they're all very friendly. You know, very nice people who I would not want any sort of harm to come to them because of that. It's one of the reasons why I'm against massive Islamic immigration, because I don't think we'd be able to assimilate them quick enough. But yeah, it's you might have a bias. That's fair enough. But yeah, that's final message for review. I'll just show that. But for me, I mean, sexuality has nothing to do with it. I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos is proof that you can be like. I'm sure you and him would probably agree on almost nothing except for that it's okay to fuck black dudes. No, but seriously though, it's like I don't really see like your sexuality as being much of a thing. It might be a bias, but then again, it might not be. I mean, people who are gay and who are bi come with all sorts of ideologies, which is quite good. There's a lot of straight people who are very radically into all this intersectional stuff. There's more to identity than who and what you fuck. Unless you're an Aberdonian sheep-shagging bastard. Anyway, so I've kind of went on to the Israel thing, the Israel question a bit more. If I phrased that any differently, I would have been in big trouble. I think I've said a couple of things in the stream that I might end up like making the stream private or link only in the future. I'll have to cover myself. It's Scotland. I have to be careful. But I'm definitely going to do a series with news you lose. So what time is it now? It's 12:30, so I don't think I'll be on too much longer. I'll just go through a couple of other things here before I finish. If I can find anything else. Again, feel free to keep firing anything in the comments. Interesting to hear. This is a guy, he's a hardcore like unionist and Brexiteer. There will be a backstop. To be fair, I'm tired of like this whole malarkey surrounding Brexit. I just want us to get on with it and to just get out. Not so much from a patriotic Brit perspective, but rather I just do not like what the EU are, and I want them to be terminated for Europe's sake. I mean, I look at what they've done to Greece, and I do so with just absolute. What happened to Greece was horrible. That's the cradle of Western civilization. Let's not remember. I mean, although I did state earlier correctly that Christianity played a pivotal role in Western civilization, it's not everything about the Western civilization. We owe a lot to ancient Athens, to Sparta, and to Rome as well. And by Rome, I mean Rome before Catholicism. But yeah, the Christians were treated badly. I'm not attracted to anyone at same race, so I guess I'm subconscious gay racist. Well, I guess you are. Doesn't make you a racist if you're not attracted to someone with it. Well, that's true. I mean, I've found people of other races attractive, other women attractive of other races. But like there is one who's Asian that I quite like, but only worry is that she is significantly older than me, even though she looks young. But I kind of want someone ideally early to mid-20s, because I want to sire children, even in this horrible, horrible world. I want a no deal. Asian birds, though, well, yeah, that's absolutely true there. Some of them, and by Asian, like Chinese, Japanese, some of them can be very nice. Even Indians, you can get some nice ones. Or is that racist as well to praise them just because, white skin? Korean. Agreed. There's nothing like a hot hot woman in Pyongyang marching. If there's one good thing about communism, it keeps them in good shape. No plus size over there. That's racist. And then they came for Mary Poppins. Yes, let's have a. I think we'll make this the last major topic of the day. I'm not going to really scroll through anymore. But yes, let's discuss blackface and the furor going around that, like thick tall bears. So I don't know. Maybe one day when you convert to conservatism and you take the red pill, you'll be the new Milo. You'll even have the golden locks to go with it. But yeah, let's talk blackface. And someone did say, in jest, they're going to go after like Mary Poppins because, and if you remember the chimney sweepers with all the coal suits all over their face, which is what happened when you were in that sort of, in cleaning chimneys or down coal mines. It's just absolutely insane. And all of a sudden, that's now being called blackface. And it's just trying to rewrite everything that was good. Everything that has been good or still is about pop culture and Western civilization has been racist. I don't believe that there's any like racial agenda in that. It's just what would you expect? Would you want them to have like white talcum powder if they come out of a chimney? So it's absolutely horrible. I can't recall what the other one was about, but I think one might have been a pop culture one, but there was also the one of the KKK photo and Democrat in blackface. Let me just have a look. I may need to go into. I'm just going to have to literally type. Yeah. So it's a 1984. That's pretty apt. Your book, it might not be 1984 in its current form, but culturally, this is 1984. The miners. Aha, you were correct. The miners. There was a picture of miners just sitting having a pint after their work, and that was them being racist. I mean, God forbid that they would get dirt on their face. I mean, what happens if you see a little child that falls over, a little boy trips up on a muddy day in a muddy field, face covered in yucky, slimy mud, black face. So this dude, this prominent Democrat, is his name here? I don't think that's his name. I'm sure it's something else. But it is. So they've got a point. They're the ones that are like sitting in with black. This guy's got blackface, like literally. I mean, I shouldn't. I know I'm probably going to get sent on the meat wagon for laughing, but that's just like tar face, and then KKK outfit. I was told by a colleague at work that the Ku Klux Klan actually has Scottish origins, and the Confederacy flag also has Scottish origins as well, because it's a sort of warped saltire with stars and variation of colours. Not like people who were in Scotland at the time, people who descended from Scots who came over to America. And so, I mean, it might not just have been all exclusively Scots, but that influence could have been there. And yeah, and the girl that told me, she's Swedish, naturally, she apologised for telling me that. And like, well, I don't want to say too much because, with work, you've got to, bite your tongue at times, but I don't feel guilty for Scots doing Ku Klux Klan. I mean, who the hell cares? They're all dead now. I mean, do you expect I can't expect anyone to, like, guilt by association is awful. Like, you would I wouldn't feel guilty for any Scots being involved in the KKK forming. I don't think white people should be guilty for like slavery that took place in the past. I don't think Turkish people should be all guilty for the Armenian genocide and for the Ottoman Empire. And I don't think Mongolians should be held accountable for Genghis and Kublai Khan. You know what they did? I mean, apparently was it 1 in 10 or 1 in 100? I think it might be 1 in 10. 1 in 10 of all people in Asia are a descendant of Genghis Khan because he raped and fucked his way across the continent. I mean, it could be bullshit, but what isn't bullshit is he did a lot of raping and had a lot of concubines. A love for food and weed accents. Indeed. So, it's getting a bit late now. If any of you guys have any other things you want me to cover before I call it a night, because I'm getting a bit sleepy now, do let me know. I'll probably give you 5 minutes to come up with anything. I get really thirsty when I'm talking for ages. I just noticed that I always get thirsty when I'm doing live streams. Wonder why that is. Dear God. The guy who sued his parents for being born. Oh God. I think it's something that I just like. It came on autoplay on YouTube when I was gaming, so I was only like half paying attention. I was like, oh God, is this the next thing? I do not have a lot of sued parents. Let's see. Born. I couldn't go into great detail. I do not know enough about that, but I will just give a general overview. Just, I would rather avoid being the abortion argument, to be honest, and focus more on. I don't want to give them copy link address. I do not want to give the Independent or even any mainstream media platform the satisfaction of a click. So I'm going to make a video about this, about the web archive. So free web's fine. I remember that was my old website. I was trying to search for it. Absolute nonsense back in the day. Let's see if this comes up. Oh. Well, it's a little trick that Stick Hexenhammer came up with, but he always like to avoid, if anyone wants to read the article at source, they can, he sends them a way back link. But I think I'll just have to bite the bullet and go. I'll give them the click this time. It's not going to kill me, I suppose, but I also want to confirm whether doing it this way will work instead. But this is a pretty cool thing. Like, you could get. So yeah, that's pretty strange. That's not worked out the way I wanted. I'll give you a good example of how this works. This will just be like my sort of sign off thing. Let's look at the article. Jesus Christ, is he? Is that jihad face? Is that a hate crime? But anyway, let me just go over it and then I'll give you my opinion on it. A 27-year-old man is planning to sue his parents for giving birth to him without his consent. Who on this planet is given consent to be born? It's literally impossible. A businessman from Mumbai, India. Well, he sounds like he's doing all right for himself, so I don't know what he's got to moan about. Oh, I see what your game is. Accept, maybe. Oh, that's it. Sorry. I was just talking to myself there, or to the website. Antinatalist. I do not know what this is. So naturally, I want to find out what it is. Negative value to birth. So he's an anti-birther then. a follower of philosophy that believes it's morally wrong for people to procreate. Morally wrong. I think that's a bullshit notion, to be honest, because we exist for a purpose. And this is where I'm not a nihilist. I do think we do have reason to be here, although I don't like the everything happens for a reason argument. I think it's too simplistic. I do think there is a higher purpose, not necessarily God, so don't think I'm being too religious just yet. But to say it's morally wrong to have children, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, having kids could sometimes be the best thing that can happen to some people, and then some people it won't have. Anyway, his beliefs have driven him to want to take his parents to court to protest the fact that they did not seek his consent before giving birth to him. How can they do that? Well, what, by putting something on the end of it? Jesus. Well, it's not exactly giving consent, because they could have just, I mean, I do believe that where you're born is complete luck of the draw. I mean, it's hard to articulate at this particular way of thinking but I've thought about it in the past, and I just think, well, considering the population of China, it would have been more likely that I could have been, if I was to come into existence anywhere, China or India would be more likely. But I drew a longer straw and was born in the West. I say that because I don't want to live under the oppressive Chinese regime. I really do feel for the people there. Anyway, appeared wearing sunglasses and fake beard. There is Islamist face, jihad face. I take umbrage with that. It's a good thing you're not in Scotland, otherwise you'd be going to jail, son. To explain the decision on YouTube video posted online, I want everyone in India and the world to realise one thing: they are born without consent. That may be technically true, but what he's trying to build up is that it's that you've been wronged. No, you've not been wronged by being born. It's absolutely stupid to apply consent to it. So while it's technically, maybe by using that language, it's not like he's lying, but at the same time, it's just a stupid rationale. No one can give consent. It's kind of like saying, well, no one gives consent to gravity to pull us down, but there's nothing we can do about it. I want them to understand that they don't owe their parents anything. Well, if your parents do fuck all for you, then perhaps you'd have a point. Just gonna have a little look at the chat. It's all this interventional. The guy said his parents were being born. This, the same old Jew or 90% wrong sides but livable. Oh, thank you for saying that I'm wrong about 99% of things, because what that means is right, because you're a communist. Anti-natalist neo-nihilism. I don't know. I think there's nihilism in there, but I think there's more of a sort of like insidious hatred towards the fact that we've been born. Like there's resentment, whereas when I was a nihilist, there was little resentment because I felt almost dejected and I didn't even have the energy to be resentful. But that was just my way of seeing it. Anyway, Mr. Samuel claimed he had a good relationship with his parents, both of whom are lawyers. Although it's technically not the first world because they're lawyers, that's a good position, and the middle class in India are doing pretty well. So this is what we would call first world problems with the first world. Poor people could not come to this conclusion because they don't have the luxury of doing that. He created a Facebook page to promote his ideas and post regularly about his beliefs. Fair enough. That's what free speech is all about. I hope Facebook don't ban him for that. I just hope they don't ban people who try and refute his arguments either. He said he's aware that the judge is likely to throw out their case because deep down inside he knows it's a load of bullshit and wants to make a point that he believes Earth would be a better place if there were no humans. Maybe, but the only way we could achieve that at this stage would literally be genocide. What you're going to do, tell 7 billion people to stop having kids? Good luck with that. The only other option would be to just have a nuclear holocaust, but then you'd destroy everything else, so it's not practical. I must admire this is pretty good trolling from his mother. Kavita Karnad Samuel said, I must admire my son's temerity to want to take his parents to court knowing they were both lawyers. And if Raphael could come up with a rational explanation as to how we could have sought his consent to be born, I will accept my fault. That's a pretty good response from his mother, to be fair. And yeah, it's a pretty silly thing. I mean, if I was to see this maybe 2014, maybe even 2015, I would have thought it was a joke, but because of the state of the world right now, it's just hard to say. And the Independent, since they stopped printing the Independent newspaper in 2015, I know they still do the Eye, but I'm talking about the actual Independent. They've just turned it into a BuzzFeed Lite essentially. So yeah, that was very fascinating. So I'm just gonna have one last look at the comments. Chemical warfare is practical. Oh, dude. The water supply should be laced with contraceptive fluid. Yeah, but do you think any of those options would work without other? Jesus Christ, is this like a pro-abortion thing? Is this like New York State after-birth abortion? But yeah, so it's now coming up for 1 past midnight. Yeah, the only reason I'll be able to stay up this late is because I'm on annual leave. I'm back to work next week. So streams will be fewer and further between, or they'll be more at dinner time. I do hope to do them. I'll try and make this a regular thing. This will be the birth of With News You Lose. I quite like the sound of that. I do think it's quite funny with The Chosen You Lose. I won't say it, just in case. See, I'm censoring myself. With screw it, I'll just say it. There's a thing called With Jews You Lose that the alt-right say, which makes me laugh, but I don't agree with. But I think With News You Lose, it's just a funny parody of that. So yeah, and how often do you look at the news and go, I'm delighted? It's not. It's almost like the business of trying to make people unhappy. Pork, I'm anti-reproduction in general. I would love to talk to you about that one day, but we'll leave that for another day. It's getting late. Worldwide genocide just rolls off the tongue. White pride, worldwide genocide. Yeah. Anyway, so I will abort the the screen share. Oh, I don't think I did screen share actually. Oh, I thought I did do screen share. See, I'm such a noob. I didn't do it all this time, so you were just looking at me. Yeah, yeah. I'm tired, and I'm tired. Anyway, so I'm going to call it a night. Thank you to you guys for tuning in, and to those that tuned in earlier. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's been productive. I'm glad that you have brought forward your ideas and you've not just rolled along with what I've had to say. It's very productive when we do this. It's not easy to do this online. It's much easier to do it in person. Definitely going to be back here. Please subscribe. We'll do this again. I'll maybe try and do a couple of rapid fire content as well before going back to work, and then content will be like fewer and further between. Anyway, so thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys the next time.